I was here this morning, but I didn't know nothing about it. I'll have to go to is this guy here?
This is my church. My church every Tuesday for the Lady Hogan. So we pray.
You called me, I left another way, but I thought the traffic lights. I made a haircut. Donna called me too.
Oh yeah, I know. Donna said, "Did you get answers?" So okay, I tried to call. So I guess I call you.
아까 살려주세요. 고난에 장사 못하겠다 그러고.
우리 괜찮아 그랬어 지금 앞에서. 우리 다 괜찮아.
그냥 불안하니까 경찰들 순찰 좀 늘려달라 그러고.
온다. 뭐라고 해야 돼?
여기 된다고. 여기. 그 당분간 경찰 순찰 좀 늘려달라 그러시죠.
근데 그렇게 하고 있다고 했는데 한 번도 말 아니 하세요. 아니에요. 내가 그랬어. 나 기자인데 나한테 무슨 기자 안 누구야. 이미 제가 경찰서 여러 번 하긴 했어요. 놀리고 있다고 했어요.
사건이 오늘 경찰 처음 본다 그러거든.
진짜 그거? 저 아울리츠 코스도 아니고.
나는 이야기하면 여기 여사가 알기 때문에.
우리는 못해.
이쪽으로 오세요. 여기.
Hi. Hi, are you the owner? Nice to meet you. My wife Yumi, she might need some products. You got anything good? Let's go look inside your store a little bit. You know County Executive Paul and his wife?
more fashionable chicken than that.
I know. I gave a heads up. I got a job. Give me a new job. It's been a little while.
Okay.
Just like briefly outside.
Okay.
Very nice. And most of them is going to be here in a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. We're following these guys. Hello. How are you? Nice to see you. How are you? Nice to see you.
On the Thai restaurant. Eating this restaurant.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
How are you? We are supposed to, we're not going
Oh, don't you inside?
Yeah, we are here. It's good. Yeah.
So are you doing okay? You know the county executive.
Hello, how are you? Very good to see you.
Came out to support some of the businesses there in the community. Let you know that we're here and that we're going to be here for you. We're going to try to keep everybody safe. We're going to try to support you as much as we can.
So last year we have the during the pandemic we have the issue and my experience, real experience in May.
Yeah.
I had the attack at the front when I finished the work.
Oh,
yeah,
you
someone,
attacked?
Yes, someone attacked to me and hit my car. And in the back door, we are not safe, so I'm not allowed my worker.
Oh, in the back of the store.
Yeah, parking in the back. So we are not safe during that time because we adjust the schedule to close earlier, you know.
Well, we have Officer Dew from the Howard County Police Department is here. We also have the superintendent of the Maryland State Police is here today. And one of the things we're going to do is make sure that we increase visibility patrols and to try to do everything we can with the state police agencies, working with our local police forces to step up and do everything we can to keep people safe. I'm very sorry you went through that.
Yeah. So that the experience that I have is care about the people that work with me.
Of course.
And we live at the same time, and I say now that the worker at home, maybe everyone like a big group. But by that time, because during the pandemic,
The last thing after all the struggles and business and I think you're worried about
Yeah, I'll share my demand. Yeah, sure.
everything we can to help our small business. We also want to make sure we keep safe because we're really
I think I may have a story for you for next week. Do you write about COVID at all?
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's
Got
go
promoted.
say hi to him.
Come on over here, my friend.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah.
I heard you got a promotion.
Okay. Thank you.
No? Lucky guess. That's all right.
I think this is very symbolic.
It's really slippery here, so.
So.
I just have my.
Oh, okay. I thought you were looking for something.
No, I just have my phone here on speaker for
No, that's fine.
live closed captioning. The other line.
I think it can be a virtual or.
Yes, sir. Steve, I still have lunch with the doctor.
Yes, sir.
I taste delicious lasagna.
Yeah, lasagna.
You talk to
I think it can be a virtual event or like an outdoor event. Virtual? I'm just, I know you are getting there.
No problem.
this time I don't have to provide any lunch.
뭘 찍었는지도 몰라. 막 앞에 가리고 해. Nice.
I do it this way, like a girl.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here with the First Lady, the County Executive, and a number of leaders from the Asian American community. This pandemic has been a challenging time for all of us, but Asian Americans have had to deal with an additional concern that accompanied the arrival of COVID-19, a sharp and alarming rise of racist rhetoric, vitriol, and harassment directed at them simply because of their race, ethnic background, or national origin. This disturbing reality may have only recently rolled into the mainstream media coverage, but it's nothing new for Americans of Asian descent. Over the past year, we've heard countless tragic accounts from friends and family about what they've endured. Asians being harassed at the grocery store or on airplanes, being blamed for the coronavirus and yelled at to go back to China. Nearly 1/3 of all Asian Americans say that they've experienced some form of discrimination since the pandemic began. Sadly, many have been victims of much worse than just hateful words and emotional abuse. An 84-year-old in San Francisco died after being violently pushed to the ground. A 61-year-old man was slashed in the face with a box cutter on a New York City subway. A father and his 2 young children were stabbed in a Texas parking lot. And most recently, 6 Asian American women were murdered in brutal attacks in Georgia. These attacks reinforce the fear, hurt, and anger that many Asians in America feel as this hatred seems to rise unabated. All of this hits very close to home for me and my family. As a husband and a father, I'm sickened by the racism that my wife and daughters and their friends have had to contend with throughout their lives. But a few weeks ago, our youngest daughter told us that she was afraid to drive to visit us with our granddaughter because her friend's mom had recently been attacked at a gas station. Last week, the First Lady told me that her assistant was afraid to continue jogging here in Howard County after a car approached and the occupant screamed racial slurs at her. A number of businesses right here in Ellicott City were recently vandalized on Lunar New Year. Asian American communities throughout the country are facing challenges far worse than they've seen in decades. And too often, this has not received the attention that it should. And that's why I've been calling on leaders across the country in both the public and the private sectors and across the political spectrum to use their voices to speak out clearly and forcefully to denunciate this hatred. Far too few have spoken up directly to condemn these acts. Words, or the lack thereof, matter, but words are not enough. We also need action. In response to this uptick in violence and harassment, I have directed the Maryland State Police and all state law enforcement agencies to immediately increase their enhanced visibility patrols and to provide increased protection for members of our Asian community. In addition, we have issued awareness bulletins to help ensure the safety of Asian-owned businesses against further attacks. And we are encouraging anyone who is a victim or has witnessed a hate crime to please come forward. All incidents can be reported by calling Maryland's Hate Crimes Hotline at 1-866-481-8361. Sometimes victims are reluctant to report an incident because they're afraid to come forward or because they're not sure that it will make a difference. Please do not be afraid. And I want to assure you that it will make a difference. We are pushing law enforcement and prosecutors at every level of government to vigorously investigate all hate crime allegations and to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. Many incidents do not reach the level of hate crimes or violence, but the effects are just as devastating. Neighbors who are afraid to go to a store or a restaurant with their families, parents afraid to send their children to school. We need to take action. I think Congress should pass legislation that improves and fully funds data collection and reporting of hate crimes against Asian Americans, just as we have done here in the state of Maryland. Federal and state prosecutors and law enforcement should be vigorously investigating alleged hate crimes against Asian Americans and should fully enforce all existing federal and state civil rights and hate crimes legislation. Policymakers at all levels of government should address the linguistic and cultural barriers that prevent some Asian Americans from interfacing and accessing law enforcement and support services. Beyond the policy changes, leaders must remind all Americans that what we have in common binds us together as a nation, and that hate of any kind, racism of any kind against anyone is un-American, unacceptable, and wrong. Each of us, regardless of our race, ethnicity, or nation of origin, is either an immigrant ourselves or a descendant of those who came to America searching for a better life. What makes our nation exceptional is that every day we wake up in the hope that we can create better opportunities for our families than those who came before us. In America, this is not limited to people of one race, religion, or ethnic background. That's part of what makes America so special. But sadly, our country is being torn apart by those who would seek to divide and separate us solely based on our identities. The hate behind this is not driven by patriotism. It's driven by an irrational and misplaced xenophobic fear of the other. But the Asian victims throughout our country are not the other. They are our fellow Americans. Our national motto is E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Living up to that ideal will take more listening, understanding, and supporting each other, and it will take all of us working together to confront all of these things that are threatening to tear us apart. My sincere hope is that more leaders across our country will stand up and speak out about the need to confront and defeat the challenge of anti-Asian discrimination, hate, and violence. This is something that our nation must do. Our fellow Americans are counting on us to do it. At this time, I'd like to ask our First Lady, my wife Yumi, to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. First of all, I would like to thank my husband for standing up and speaking out for our community. Also, I want to thank County Executive Kevin Bull for being such a great friend and a supporter of our community. And all of the community leaders here today, you are such heroes. Thank you. As the Asian First Lady in Maryland and a first-generation immigrant, my heart is broken for victims of hate crimes. It's so very painful to see what happened. I am here to lift up the voice of Asian Americans with you. All Asian Americans come to this country to pursue the American dream and of a better future. We work so hard, served our communities, raise our children, and contribute to our economy. Our stories are American stories. American stories are our stories. But today, our grandparents, parents, daughters, sons, sisters, brothers, and friends live in fear. Why we need to be fearful? As a proud citizen of this country, we shouldn't be afraid of anything. This is not right. I hope everyone remember that we are all Americans and all immigrants to this land. This is where Asian Americans build our lives just like so many others. So no one should be here, go back somewhere. This is our home. Stop the hate. Hate has no home here. Love each other, otherwise there's no hope. Please remember why this country is envy of the world. It is because of the diversity we are proud of. We should love each other and support each other to make our country stronger. Let's continue to work together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam First Lady, my good friend Yumi Hogan, and Governor, for being here today to demonstrate your strong commitment, your continued commitment to our Asian American and Pacific Islander community here in Howard County and throughout Maryland. Your continued support keeps us resilient. Also joining us here today are Howard County Police Chief Lisa Myers and Officer Stella Dew. Chief Myers has excelled in her position in large part because of her long-standing history of dedication in our community, working alongside our neighbors, and gaining the trust of all residents and businesses. Officer Dew works on the front lines and is our police department's community liaison to our Asian American community. She's been out in our neighborhoods talking to businesses, addressing their concerns, especially following that unfortunate string of burglaries on Lunar New Year where 4 of our Asian businesses were robbed. Both of these women, these leaders, have shattered the glass ceiling and are trailblazers in a field where too often women are underrepresented. And having 2 women of color leaders in our police department is such a testament to our commitment to constantly building a strong relationship between our department and our community. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge, recognize, and honor my wife, the First Lady of Howard County, Shawnee Ball, who's here today in continued solidarity with all of our community. Community starts with family. It's our first experience in recognizing and supporting others. And despite many of us here today who take on different roles publicly, a lot of the hard work of building relationships, caring for one another, and educating one another on similarities as well as differences starts with family. In Howard County, we take pride as one of the most diverse and inclusive communities across this great nation. For centuries, our Asian American Pacific Islander community members have played a vital role in our economic growth, our culture, and the building of our society. It's outstanding that there's still, it's astounding that there still continues to be prejudice and exploitation towards our Asian American Pacific Islander family. And this is why Howard County has been proactive to not only respond to, but work to further prevent hate and violence against this community. Today, we're joined by many members of our Asian Pacific Islander work group, or AAPI work group, and you'll be hearing from a couple members, Bob Zhang and Sue Park. I want to acknowledge the work that the AAPI work group has already done and continues to do to highlight and advocate for AAPI issues, stand up and speak up against hate, and ensure that Howard County continues to move toward that more inclusive community. Howard County is home to nearly 60,000 Asian Americans, and many of our neighbors operate beloved businesses, restaurants, and services right here in our neighborhood. This year, these business owners and employees have already begun through some of the toughest challenges seen in a century with the COVID-19 pandemic, and at the same time, witnessing increasing crimes and bias against Asian Americans. And yet, our Asian American community were protecting the whole community. Thank you to all of our community members, many who are here today that were there to help in the early days of the pandemic, finding and collecting and donating PPE to our frontline healthcare workers and first responders. And I just want to say, we were devastated by the violence in Georgia last week and the impact, not just on those Asian American women and all the victims, but those victims' families. And the violence that has occurred all across America against our Asian community. We want our Asian community to know that we stand with you. And we encourage every Marylander to do your part to fight against all racism and bias. Search your mind and your heart and eliminate any negative bias in yourself and your circles. We can only eradicate stigma, hatred, and racism by proactively caring for our community and educating one another. It's our collective responsibility to call out and stop the spread of this anti-Asian rhetoric, because we know if left untreated, it only festers, grows, and spreads. Our country cannot continue down this path of hateful, dehumanizing language, which we've seen across this country, which leads to violence against any one of us. Just as we've shared responsibility over the past year to stop the spread of COVID-19, we have a responsibility, a shared responsibility, to fight against the hate of our family, our neighbors, and our friends. Everyone deserves to not only be safe, but feel safe in our community, and we are all standing together each and every day here in Howard County. Thank you.
My name is Lanlan Xu. I'm a member of Howard County Chinese School. Thank you first for Governor Hogan, First Lady Yumi Hogan, and County Executive Board for being here today to condemn racism and raise awareness of the challenges Asian American communities are facing. We are all impacted by the pandemic, but Asian Americans are dealing with two viruses, COVID-19 and the virus of racism. Everyone assumes that our community is fine because of the model minority myth, yet we're deeply suffering both financially and mentally. In Howard County, 4 Asian restaurants were burglarized and vandalized on Lunar New Year's Eve. The business owners are extremely concerned about their safety, yet they are afraid of speaking up because of fear of being targeted and retaliated against. Some are asking their employees to travel in groups to and from work as a form of self-help. I urge the state and county government to take immediate and concrete steps to protect and help these businesses. The sad truth is, these burglaries and the Atlanta shootings are just a tip of the iceberg. Xenophobia and discrimination against Asian Americans are widespread and rooted in the system. I have encountered being yelled at, "Go back to China," while walking on the street. I have witnessed how my American-born children are being asked, "Where are you really from?" I have friends who tell me stories about their children being called China virus and bullied at school. Asian Americans are treated as the perpetual foreigners because our more than 400 years of lived experiences were erased from the history books. We must incorporate AAPI perspectives into the curriculum of the public school curriculum. Because AAPI history is American history, and the AAPI story is the American story. I'd like to end by saying that Asian Americans are bearing the brunt of the latest wave of racist attacks. But systemic racism is affecting all minority groups. Only when we come together, work together, and see each other as fellow human beings can we move forward to build an equal, just, and free society for all. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Hello. My name is Henry Kim. I'm a small business owner, real tiny small business owner. I have been Howard County resident more than 30 years. But still I have all, whenever spring is coming, hopes and dreams alive. But this spring, my dreams, my hope was shattered in the event of Georgia Atlanta. There are 6 Asian Pacific Americans killed because of unfounded rumor, China's virus and biased racism. We are respected, small, and minority. As you know, Asian Pacific American have made an enormous contribution for 200 years. Construction, economy, art, science, despite all the discrimination, Chinese tea, Chinese poll tax, Japanese concentration camp, still we are respected very high income, high educated minority. We are targeting because of what? Because we are excellent, we are very best. That's why we are targeting. We made an enormous contribution to America. Governor Hogan, First Lady, County Executive Calvin Long, they have demonstrated outstanding leadership, race reconciliation, race bias. They are special political group. Let us, our common people, we have to do it. Let us organize grassroots movement, and then we have to uprising, demonstration in peaceful, no violent manner. Let us speak loudly together 3 times. Everybody follow me. No racism, follow me. No racism. No racism. No racism. Thank you very much.
Henry, thank you very, very much. Good afternoon. My name is Chiling Tong. I am a longtime resident of Maryland, and I serve as the president and the CEO of the Asian Pacific Islander American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship, we also call National ACE. As Governor Hogan mentioned, these are very, very difficult times for the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. Anti-AAPI racism and violence is a further damaging small business owner in our community, and we are also being blamed for the global pandemic itself. We are not foreigner. We are American, and we are here to stay. And now we have been beginning through the impact of COVID has had on the AAPI business community, not only in Howard County, not only in Maryland, but all over the country. We had a chance to work with Asian and African American and Hispanic business leaders together to commission the largest national survey. And from the survey, also as the governor mentioned, we found that 1 in 3 female AAPI business owners experience racial bias. One of my very good friends, Corina Sun, is here with us, and she has been a victim herself, and she was a business owner. AAPI small business not able to operate safely and need assistance immediately. Business owners are deeply frightened and are taking extreme precautions to run their business. As a national ACE, we will address the emotional, physical distress of this attack, and we developed a campaign called AAPI Strong. And together with our Maryland corporate and nonprofit partners, we are standing up against the racial bias, discrimination, and fear that has plagued our AAPI business community. We applaud Governor Hogan and First Lady Yumi Hogan's action in response to the urgent needs of our AAPI business community. We will continue work further the Governor and First Lady's immediate call to action. This Friday, March 26th, we are proud to hold Stop Asian Hate Virtual Action Date, and we are asking all Maryland organizations and corporations to post a statement condemning the hateful attacks against the Asian American and Pacific Islanders. Also on March 26th, we are encouraging everyone to dine at the AAPI-owned restaurant in Maryland, just like the governor and the First Lady do today, and we will have our hashtag, Have You Eaten Yet? Campaign. These are just some of the immediate actions we are taking now to stand together to show we are strong in this fight. We are AAPI Strong. Thank you very, very much.
So for your information, I will be the last speech. First of all, thank you, Governor Hogan and First Lady Yumi Hogan and County Executive Kevin Ball, for holding this press conference to show your support for the Asian American community throughout Maryland and beyond. Governor Hogan, because of you, your leadership, the Asian American community in Maryland has enjoyed the peace and prosperity that all Americans living anywhere in the United States should experience. In an attempt to blaming for their suffering during this COVID-19, some people have sought to blame the Asian American community. Ignorance bred suspicion, and suspicion bred condemnation and violence. We must stop the violence and learn to live in peace for our children. To those who do not know Asian Americans, I would invite you to get to know us. You will find that we are much like you, wonderful people who care about our family and communities, yet with our own unique set of struggles and weaknesses. To the Korean American and Asian American communities, and to any ethnic community who feels overlooked or misunderstood, I would ask that we do not hide in fear, nor be silent. The Bible reminds us that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So let us not live in fear. Let us draw from the immeasurable strength and power of God to stand confidently and do good. We are not powerless nor weak. We have rights, we have a voice, we can initiate change that undergird a movement. God has given us the spirit of love, so let us love and care for one another as Jesus loved and gave the worst of sinners. Let's recognize that our differences are what makes us invaluable. Let us not remain indifferent, but come together purposefully as a community to make reforms that protect the least among us. And let us uphold peace. Let us drive away ignorance and suspicion by highlighting many Asian American contributions in our communities. My church, Bethel Korean Presbyterian Church, like many others, is praying that God will comfort the grieving families who are in fear and shock. We are also praying that the victim's death will compel all of us to examine our hearts and acknowledge any prejudice and opinion we may have. We also pray that God will guide all of us to be instruments of peace and transformation for our community. Thank you, and may God bless you all.